Hello.
Hi.
We have a card here.
Okay, I'm excited.
Okay, the card says, how do our strengths and weaknesses complement each other?
Wow.
So I think we're very similar. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to. I think we complement each other because we relate on so many things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like what you're saying is we are similar in the way of how we deal with who we are as a person. So like our day-to-day emotions and day-to-day things we go through, I think we try and handle them pretty similar. So say you're having an emotional day or a rougher day, I think I can and you can, vice versa, understand each other
Totally.
and what we're going through.
Totally. I think, and we play off of each other because of that, which I think is amazing. And I think it makes me feel like you understand what I am going through because we have a lot of similar strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
But we also have some different ones.
Like what?
Like I think that in terms of like personal weaknesses, I would say that I am much more of a chronic overthinker. And I would say that you actually tend to be able to set things aside and like move past them, you know?
Yeah, which is my weakness in doing that is I can disconnect really easily with my emotions. So I'm so connected to them as you are. But when you find that emotion, you want to like dive into it. And sometimes for me, I want to disconnect.
I have like no
boundaries.
Thank you. For me, it's really hard for me to move past something that comes up in me. I feel like I need to acknowledge it and understand it and like work through it in the moment. Whereas you, which I would actually say is both a strength and a weakness at the same time, is like you can have something come up and be like, I don't need to deal with this right now. I can deal with it later. Yeah. Which allows you to be in your moment more, allows you to keep pushing through what you're doing in that moment. But also when it's like something with me and I feel like I need to deal with it in the moment, you're more like, I got things to do. Yeah. Let's deal with it. Let's deal with this another time. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how we complement each other in that though. Like, so because I think we know how each other are, how does that complement each other? So obviously we connect emotionally and understand each other, which is like the best thing ever to be understood.
I think it's great that I actually think that like you not always wanting to deal with things in the moment and me wanting to deal with things in the moment is great at times, because there is moments where the emotions and do need to be put aside because we do need to do something that's happening in that moment. And so you being the person that is better at setting things aside for another time or for later pushes me to be like, okay, let's focus on what we need to do with the task at hand right now. And then when we can come back to this in a handful of moments or when we get out of this exact situation and deal with it then. Yeah. So there's times where it's amazing, which is a compliment to both of us. And then there's times where I am like, hey, we need to deal with this right now. This is like really sitting on my heart or sitting on my mind. And like, I would love for us to dedicate some time to this right now. Yeah. And then that's a compliment that complements each other in that way, because that pushes you to deal with things in the moment.
I was just going to say, like, I know for me, that's something that you have allowed me to grow in so much, is going after if something comes up, instead of making it surface of what's going on, I've really been able to take a step back and say, what is the bigger picture here? Which is something you're so strong in, and I don't want to touch on sometimes because it can be really scary. So how do you feel like you got to that place where you can go within and face your feelings? I feel like not a lot of people can do that. For me, I think it was difficult. So how do you think you got to that place?
I think a lot of practice, putting time and effort into it. But I think like that started with me going to a therapist and learning how to feel my emotions and like work with the shit that is coming up inside of me, like the whether it's insecurities or worries or just things that are pressing at the time. I don't think that it's taught often how to reparent yourself or work with how your insecurities are coming up. And I think that like me going to therapy, like, as you know, for a handful of months and like putting in that work was like immensely beneficial to now being able to feel feelings, the depth of them, and work through them in real time and not kind of like get stuck in them the way that I would before. And again, that's like that is still something that I work on constantly, of not overthinking them and just like you're amazing at that, of like just feeling what you're feeling and then letting it go. And that's not something that I think that I'm as skilled at as you are, but I think both of them are things that like we can work on and like you can get better at the same way that you do as working out.
Very true.
What do you feel like, how do I phrase this?
I don't know, you mean mean?
No, this is gonna be nice. We are currently in an environment where there is a lot of people, and one of your strengths is that you are really good at recharging yourself on your own. And one of my strengths is I recharge very easily around more people. And on that same note, weaknesses, one of my, and I wouldn't say these are like weaknesses, I would just say like these are things that are like more challenging for us. One of my like more challenging things is spending continual time not being around a lot of people. And you would probably be more on the other end of the spectrum, where you actually are more challenged when you are consistently around more people. How do you feel like me and you are able to work through that together to where we both feel good in environments like this, and then also environments where we're more alone?
How do we work through that? Or what was the beginning?
How do you feel like me and you are able to get through that? Because we do consistently. How do you feel like me and you are able to get through that?
I feel like balance, I feel like we allow each other to have, how should I say this? I know that you like people around, and you know that I need moments of rest by myself. So I feel like you do a really good job and I do a really good job of respecting that space. So being in a house with so many people, you made sure to make it clear that there was time for ourselves, because you know is important to me, and I think I communicated that to you. I also think I make not a sacrifice, but I know that it's important to you to be around people, so I grow from the experience to put myself in that type of situation. I feel
the same way too. I feel like me being notoriously around 30 plus people every day, being on teams as an athlete, and coming from a big family, like it's in my nature to always be around a ton of people. And I think going from that to being living with you, away from teams, away from family, it was like a big shift in what my normal day-to-day looks like. And I think that made me grow a ton with like how I'm able to work through my own stuff in real time, and also able to like be a self-sufficient adult without having the ability to lean consistently on teammates and people that are around and friends and stuff like that you see so often. So I think like really communicating with each other is what continually gets me and you through like any sort of variable or hurdle that comes up.
I agree. And while you're saying this too, I feel like something that's a strength that's really beautiful in both of us that we do together is we understand ourselves. So I think the best way that we can work together as a team and allow our strengths to show up and our weaknesses is that we understand who we are. So you understand your background and where you come from and how you like things, and I understand it for me too. And both of us understanding that from each other's eyes is like incredible to work together in.
Self-awareness.
Yeah.
Self-awareness and awareness of your partner and what your partner's, I don't like really calling them weaknesses or strengths. I just think like who your partner is and like what they've been through is something that's like massively important. And I think like the work of self-awareness, which again is super beneficial to go to therapy for, because you just learn yourself and where everything's coming from.
Yeah, because self-awareness can be a really scary thing, because things will come up that will be like, I don't want to face that. I don't want to know that. And that's something I think you've showed me a lot, like I mentioned earlier. So yeah.
And I think when you are self-aware and you understand both like the good parts of yourself and the parts of yourself that need work, because everybody needs work. Like everybody has things that aren't perfect.
Yeah.
And when you're able to like see the good parts of yourself and the negative parts of yourself, or the parts that you are challenged by and that you want to work on, you're also able to understand those parts in your partner. You're also able to like see like, oh, this my partner's very similar to me as a real human being that like has strengths and weaknesses that they need to work through too, and that allows for you to communicate and have those conversations of like, how are you doing in this moment? I know this is something that's harder for you, or I know this is something that's hard for me. How can we like get through this together?
Agreed.
Where do you feel like your strengths and weaknesses come from?
I think definitely a lot of how I grew up, for sure. I think that shapes us a lot. And then I think a lot of my strengths come from you. I think I developed a lot of my strengths of emotional self-awareness, understanding came a lot when I met you. I think I always knew, I was always interested in my feelings and understood it, but I think I always had a positive mindset. And then when I met you, it was like, let's dive deeper into that.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think that a lot of my like feeling of emotions and like allowing myself to like really feel deeply came from you, of like you doing it so naturally, and then me being able to learn from you being so skilled at it, that like me wanting to be better at it, the same way that you just said that I'm notoriously able to like just like mindfully work through and that taught you to like be better at it. I feel 100% the exact same about emotions.
No, I agree. I also thought of too, like, I think my weaknesses, I know that word we're kind of like, but I think just habits of growing up. Like I'm thinking about like the people that are in your life, and for me, disconnecting was a thing that I did, and maybe my family did as well. Like if we didn't want to talk about something, we just fully disconnected from it. So, you know, it just goes back to childhood.
And I feel the same about my family, of like not communicating or talking about your emotions. Kind of like, if you're feeling a certain way, deal with it on your own. Don't bring it up to everybody. Don't like work through it as like a collective. Just kind of like get through it. And I think like with you now, it's like we make such a point of like talking about how we're feeling, talking about what's going on. If there's something that's on the top of your mind, getting it off and just like communicating on that.
We love feelings.
We love feelings. Great. I think we should leave the people that are watching with how to acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses, or continue to improve on them. So I'll let you start.
Oh, really?
I can start if you want.
Do you already have it?
No. But I think like, I would say how to improve on your strengths and weaknesses would first start with what we were just saying of self-awareness, of like really.
Which is what?
Which means like really looking at the way that you go about your day, that you go about your relationships, that you go about your actions, and like understanding what you could be better at in that, and what you're also good at.
Yeah.
Some people are really good at conversations with people and having like an open conversation. Other people are really good at working through things on their own. And just like really understanding like, okay, when things come up for me, how do I work through them?
Yep.
And then from there, which that is self-awareness, like really understanding, okay, I tend to do this when something happens. When something happens with my friend and they say something I don't like, I tend to retreat, or I tend to push back at them, like whatever it is. That's like becoming more self-aware. And then from there, you can understand like, these are the things that I feel like I would really like to work on. And then these are the things that I feel like I already excel at, that I would like to continue excelling at.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like I piggyback on that. So I would say for another thing would be ask your family, ask your partner, ask people you trust.
Great idea.
Like, what do you see that I'm really awesome at, and what do you see that I could work on?
Because love that. Somebody that you trust.
Someone you trust, for sure.
That you feel like will give you an honest answer.
Yeah.
And will say it with compassion.
Yes.
But will tell you the truth.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we can't see, like we kind of make up our mind of who we are. And I think it's really nice for someone you trust. Like if I asked you, I know you'd give me a real answer, and it'd be something I actually would want to hear and work on. So I feel like that'd be another step to figure out your strengths and weaknesses.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Ask somebody that you trust. Beautiful.
Yay.
Good work.
Good work.